Picture waking up on Christmas morning. Frost creeping across the window pane. The radiator clanking and hissing, fighting a losing battle against December. Your dad already up, cursing at the thermostat he had turned down to 62 the night before because heating oil cost more than gold. This was not just any winter. This was Christmas in 1970s America, when the world felt uncertain, when gas lines stretched for miles, when the evening news brought nothing but worry. But somehow, inside those modest homes, magic happened anyway. For those who lived it, Christmas back then was not about abundance. It was about gratitude. One special gift under the tree. One family gathered around one television set. One night, when all the troubles outside seemed to melt away, just for a little while. If you experienced Christmas in the 1970s, prepare yourself. These memories are going to hit you somewhere deep. The Sears wish book arrived in September, and from that moment on, your life revolved around it. That thick catalog, hundreds of pages of toys, clothes, appliances, and dreams. You didn't just flip through it. You studied it. You memorized it. You dog-eared the pages and circled everything you wanted in thick crayon or ballpoint pen. Mom would find you lying on your stomach in the living room, the catalog spread open, lost in a world of Evel Knievel stunt cycles and $6 million man action figures. For girls, there was the Barbie dream house, Holly hobby dolls, and easy bake ovens that actually worked. You'd spend hours deciding, changing your mind, then changing it again. The Sears wish book wasn't just a catalog. It was a portal, a promise that Christmas was coming, that somewhere out there, one of those treasures had your name on it. You didn't ask for everything. You knew better. You picked one thing, maybe two, and you hoped, really hoped. And when Christmas morning finally came, and that one gift was actually there under the tree, it meant everything. Not because it was expensive, but because someone had listened, someone had remembered, someone had made it happen despite everything else going wrong in the world. The energy crisis changed everything. If you lived through Christmas 1973 or 1974, you remember. President Nixon went on television and asked Americans to turn down their thermostats, to drive less, to conserve. Gas stations ran dry. Signs reading, "Sorry, no gas," became as common as Christmas decorations. Your dad came home frustrated, talking about waiting in line for 2 hours just to fill up the station wagon. Odd and even rationing meant you could only buy gas on certain days, depending on your license plate number. Christmas shopping trips got planned like military operations. You did not just drive to the mall on a whim. You calculated. You combined trips. You made every gallon count. Inside the house, the thermostat became sacred. 65 degrees during the day, 60 degrees at night. You wore sweaters indoors, thick socks, sometimes your coat while watching television. Mom piled extra blankets on the beds. The house was colder than it used to be, but nobody complained. Not really. Because you understood. Everyone was sacrificing. Christmas lights stayed off in some neighborhoods. Some families decided it was not worth the electricity. Others kept them burning, a small act of defiance against the darkness, a reminder that Christmas could not be rationed. And somehow, that scarcity made things feel more precious. The warmth of the one room where the whole family gathered, the glow of the tree, the knowledge that outside, the world was struggling. But inside, you were together. You were okay. The tree went up the weekend after Thanksgiving, never earlier. Dad wrestled it through the front door, needles scattering across the carpet, while Mom directed traffic from the hallway. Real trees were still the standard. You would pile into the car, drive out to the tree lot or the farm, walk the rows until you found the one. The smell of pine filled the station wagon all the way home. Decorating was a family event. Not coordinated, not Pinterest perfect. Chaotic, mismatched, and absolutely beautiful. Strings of those fat C9 bulbs, red and green and blue and orange, the kind that got hot enough to burn your fingers. Half of them would not work until Dad spent an hour testing each one, muttering under his breath, replacing the dead ones from a box of spares he kept in the garage. The ornaments came out of boxes labeled in Mom's handwriting. Glass balls from the 50s, some chipped, some missing their hooks. Popsicle stick creations you made in kindergarten. That lopsided star your sister constructed from cardboard and aluminum foil. Nothing matched, and everything mattered. Tinsel went on last, strand by strand if your mother was particular, handfuls at a time if your dad got impatient. The tree glowed. The living room transformed. For those few weeks, that corner of the house became the center of everything. Angel hair, that fluffy white fiberglass stuff, covered the mantel. It looked like snow and felt like insulation. You were not supposed to touch it, but you always did. Years later, you would learn it was basically the same material they used to insulate attics. But back then, it was magic. Television was different. 3 networks, maybe PBS if you adjusted the antenna just right. No remote control, no DVR, no streaming. If you missed something, it was gone forever. But Christmas specials were sacred. The schedule was printed in TV Guide, and families planned around it. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, A Charlie Brown Christmas with that sad little tree and Linus reciting scripture in his blanket. The Grinch, narrated by Boris Karloff. His voice somehow both menacing and warm. You'd sit on the floor in your pajamas, bowl of popcorn in your lap, watching commercials for toys you'd already circled in the catalog. The whole family gathered. Nobody scrolled through phones. Nobody wandered off to watch something else in another room. There was one television, and everyone watched together. And then there were the network variety specials. Bob Hope's Christmas Show, broadcast to the troops overseas and living rooms across America. Andy Williams in his sweater, crooning Christmas carols. Bing Crosby and David Bowie singing Peace on Earth and Little Drummer Boy in 1977. A pairing so strange, it became legendary. The night those specials aired, you stayed up past bedtime. Mom made hot chocolate. Dad fell asleep in his recliner before it ended. And those flickering images from that old console television became memories you'd carry for the rest of your life. Christmas dinner was an event. Not fancy, not complicated, but abundant in the ways that mattered. The turkey went into the oven before dawn. By afternoon, the whole house smelled like roasting meat and sage. Mom had been planning for weeks, the good china coming out of the cabinet, the tablecloth that only appeared twice a year. The menu rarely changed. Turkey, of course. Mashed potatoes, the real kind, not instant, although some families had switched and hoped nobody noticed. Green bean casserole with those crunchy onions on top, straight from the Campbell's soup recipe on the can. Cranberry sauce that kept the shape of the cylinder it came from. Stuffing, rolls, sweet potatoes with marshmallows melted on top. Relatives arrived throughout the day. Aunts and uncles, grandparents, cousins you only saw at holidays. The house filled with noise, laughter, and the occasional argument about politics that someone would quickly change the subject from. Kids got banished to the folding table in the kitchen, the card table set up in the corner, anywhere the adults could fit an extra seat. Dessert was pumpkin pie, pecan pie, maybe fruitcake that nobody actually ate but Grandma brought every year anyway. You were too full to take another bite, but somehow you managed. And after dinner, the men loosened their belts and retreated to the living room for football. The women cleaned up, trading gossip and recipes while the dishes piled in the sink. Kids escaped outside to play with their new toys until it got too dark or too cold. It wasn't perfect. Uncle Larry drank too much. Aunt Carol made that comment about Mom's cooking. Someone's kid threw up from eating too many cookies. But it was family. It was Christmas, and despite everything, it felt like exactly where you were supposed to be. Presents in the 1970s were not piled to the ceiling. You got a few things. Maybe one big gift, a couple of smaller ones, some clothes you pretended to be excited about, and a stocking stuffed with oranges, candy canes, and chocolate coins wrapped in gold foil. But that one big gift, that was everything. For boys, it might have been Hot Wheels or Matchbox cars, the tracks you assembled across the living room floor. An Evel Knievel stunt cycle that actually jumped. A big wheel, the low-riding plastic tricycle that every kid on the block wanted. By the late 1970s, it was Star Wars. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, the Millennium Falcon playset that cost more than your parents wanted to spend, but somehow appeared under the tree anyway. For girls, it was Barbie and her endless accessories. The dream house, the Corvette. Later, there was Holly Hobby, strawberry shortcake, Wonder Woman underoos, easy bake ovens that cooked tiny cakes with a light bulb, Light Bright, punching colored pegs into black paper to make glowing pictures. Everyone got board games: Monopoly, Life, Operation, Battleship. Games that took hours to play and ended with someone flipping the board in frustration. But you played them anyway. The whole family gathered around the coffee table, because that is what you did on Christmas Day. And then there was Atari. If your family got an Atari in the late 1970s, you were royalty. Pong on the television screen, those simple white paddles bouncing a square ball back and forth. It seems primitive now. Then, it was the future. You did not get a mountain of presents. You got enough. And every single thing meant something, because you knew it had been chosen with care, wrapped with love, given with sacrifice. Winter storms in the 70s hit different. The blizzard of 1978 buried the Midwest and Northeast under feet of snow. People remember exactly where they were. Cars abandoned on highways. Entire towns cut off for days. National Guard trucks rolled through neighborhoods, checking on the elderly and delivering supplies. If you lived through that Christmas season, you remember the worry. Would the power stay on? Did we have enough food? Could Dad make it home from work? But you also remember the magic. Snow so deep it covered the first-floor windows. Tunnels dug through drifts. The whole world gone white and silent. School was canceled for a week. Neighbors who never talked were suddenly shoveling each other's driveways, sharing generators, pooling resources. The power went out, and you huddled around the fireplace, roasting hot dogs on sticks, playing cards by candlelight. It should have been scary. Instead, it felt like an adventure. Because you were together. Because your parents made it feel safe, even when it was not. Those storms taught you something about resilience, about community, about how crisis brings out either the best or the worst in people. And most of the time, at least in your neighborhood, it brought out the best. Christmas Eve had its own rituals. Some families went to church, the candlelight service where you would hold a real candle and try not to drip wax on your good clothes. Silent Night was sung in a packed sanctuary, flames flickering, voices blending. For 1 hour, the world felt holy. Other families drove around looking at Christmas lights. Dad would pile everyone into the station wagon, heat blasting, radio playing carols, and you would cruise slowly through the fancy neighborhoods where people went all out. Roof lines traced in lights, nativity scenes on front lawns, that one house on every block that looked like it was trying to be visible from space. You would press your nose against the cold window, fogging the glass with your breath, and everything seemed possible. Tomorrow was Christmas. Tomorrow was magic. Tonight was the anticipation. And sometimes that was the best part. At home, you would leave cookies for Santa, milk in a glass, carrots for the reindeer. You would lie in bed, too excited to sleep, listening for hoofbeats on the roof, for the creak of someone at the door. Every sound was suspicious. Every shadow held promise. And then, finally, sleep came. And when you woke up, it was Christmas. Morning arrived before dawn. You would creep down the stairs, heart pounding, and there it was. The tree, glowing. The presents, arranged. Stockings, stuffed and heavy. For a moment, before anyone else woke up, the magic was yours alone. Then came the thunder of siblings, the calls for parents, the chaos of wrapping paper torn and flying. Dad operated the camera, one of those Kodak Instamatic types, shouting at everyone to hold still, the flash temporarily blinding. Those photos, faded now, yellowed at the edges, captured something no digital image ever could. By noon, the living room was a disaster zone. Paper everywhere, toys scattered, someone already fighting over who got to play with what first. Mom in the kitchen, starting dinner. Dad asleep in his chair, newspaper over his face. It was perfect. Not because nothing went wrong, but because the things that went wrong did not matter. The burnt rolls, the broken toy, the cousin who cried, the uncle who complained. None of it dimmed the glow. Ask anyone who experienced Christmas in America in the 1970s, and they will tell you the same thing. We had less. Gas was scarce. Money was tight. The news was grim. The future felt uncertain. But somehow, Christmas felt more. There was togetherness. The whole family in one room. The whole neighborhood looking out for each other. Shared experiences, shared specials, shared struggles that bound people together instead of pushing them apart. We did not have central heating that actually worked. We had each other, huddled around the fire, wearing sweaters indoors, making the best of it. We did not have endless options. We had 3 channels and a TV guide, and everyone watched the same thing at the same time. Maybe that is what makes these memories ache. Not because the 70s were better. They were not. They were harder in ways kids today cannot imagine. Gas lines and inflation, and a country that felt like it was losing its way. But Christmas in the 70s felt earned. It felt precious. One day when the uncertainty lifted, when families came together, when the cold outside made the warmth inside mean something more. Christmas today is easier, more comfortable, more abundant. But something was lost along the way. The anticipation, the simplicity, the one perfect gift that meant everything, because you knew it came with sacrifice. If you experienced Christmas in America in the 1970s, you know exactly what I mean. The Sears catalog circled in crayon, the tree with mismatched ornaments, the Charlie Brown special on the one TV, the house at 62 degrees because heating oil cost too much. The family gathered anyway, grateful anyway, together anyway. It was not perfect, but it was real, and it was ours. If this brought back memories, share it with someone who remembers. Hit subscribe to keep these stories alive. Drop a comment telling us your favorite Christmas memory from the 70s. I really love reading all of your stories. Until next time, hold those memories close. They are worth more than any present.